Hey everybody, welcome to our last back in time of the school year. I think it's been pretty interesting doing this virtually this year, but I really hope that we'll be able to learn and have fun together in the fall and get together in person here at the museum. I think we would like to turn this into a hybrid event, which means we'd have some days that would be in person and then maybe still do it live like this for people that are either farther away or can't make it in. If you have an opinion, if you would like to see us to continue to offer this virtually, will you comment or shoot us an email or something and give us some feedback on that so we can make a good decision based off of what you guys like? Because if you want us to if you want to see me be all silly and awkward every month on these videos, then I'm happy to keep doing it if that's helpful for you and your kiddos. But anyway, do you know what I am so excited about right now is really just summer. Like, I'm looking forward to being able to go out and maybe do some things we couldn't do last year. I'm looking forward to not having to get kids up and ready to school or doing homework and things like that, and just some of the fun things we get to do during the summertime. So think about it for just a minute. What are some of your favorite things you like to do in the summer that maybe you don't get to do other times of the year? Can you think of anything? I know for me, one of my very favorite summertime activities is I get to coach one of my daughter's softball teams. And I actually have 3 girls that all play softball. So I watch a lot of softball in the summer, but I actually really like it and it's fun. And so that's one thing I really look forward to. I also really like to go camping and just spend time with my family and kind of like just take it easy. Again, because I have all these girls, I don't quite have to fix their hair so much or do some of those kind of daily things. So that's another thing I really like about the summertime. And then also, to be honest, I am kind of a wimp when it comes to being hot. And so I love working at the museum. I love this job, and hopefully we'll be able to see a lot more of you coming in this summer. But I also love that it's air conditioned here because my house is not air conditioned. And so when it gets hot in the summer, I really like to be in the museum because it's always nice and cool here too. So those are some fun things I like to do. So keep thinking about what you like to do in the summer and maybe what you're looking forward to, because we'll talk about that some more in just a minute. But one thing I want to tell you really quick is we are super excited. One of the things we'll be able to kind of do like we have, before the pandemic is we're going to have our Passport to Summer Fun program. This is last year's passport. We're getting the current ones printed. We're about ready to go. And it's going to start on Saturday, June 12th, which is our Hot Wheels in Hyrum. It's called Hot Wheels and Hot Dogs before. We're not cooking hot dogs this year. That's a pandemic thing. But we are expecting so many really cool cars, and we'll have some food trucks, and I'm really excited. It should be a really fun day. So if you want to come, Courtney and I will be there all day long, and it's going to be fun. There's going to be cool cars, and it will be really fun. And make sure you come to the tent and visit us and get your passport, because there's a special stamp we'll have that you can only get at that event. You won't be able to get doing anything else. So we have a lot of fun new activities planned, and I'm really excited for it. And then of course, at the end of the summer, we'll be able to have a pizza party. And I'm pretty hopeful this year we'll be able to actually have a pizza party and not just do pizza coupons like we did this last summer. One other thing I wanted to tell you about the Passport program is that if you are able to come to Hot Wheels and Hot Dogs, we do have the passports at the museum. So you can come anytime we're open and grab a passport and start having fun. You'll notice that a lot of the activities actually have themes about water. A lot of them have to do something with water. And so the last really exciting thing I want to tell you before we get started with our activity is that is on purpose, because we are having a Smithsonian exhibition coming from Utah Humanities is bringing it to us. And if you don't know what the Smithsonian is, it's literally one of the biggest, coolest museums in the whole world. And we have an exhibit called H2O Today, and it's going to open on Saturday, August 14th. And so that's another day, Saturday, June 12th, Saturday, August 14th. We always do things on the second Saturday. So you'll want to come, and we'll have that exhibit all through the end of the year and actually into the very first week of February 2022. So you'll want to come and see that because it's a really neat exhibit. There's fun interactives, neat things you can learn about. It's really relevant this year because if you haven't heard, we're kind of in a drought. And so there's some neat things you can learn about how you can help and be smarter with water. and just neat. Water is pretty dang cool. So there's lots of cool facts, and it's a beautiful exhibit. It will take up almost this whole back area. So you want to make sure you come and see it. And there's also going to be we have so many partners that are doing fun exhibits and programs and art shows and all kinds of stuff. So make sure that you look out for that information. So let's go back to thinking about our summer plans for just a minute. I wanted to ask you if you have ever realized that imagining things that you're going to do, well, it's kind of like writing a story in your head. So let's think for a minute. For instance, what if you're thinking about going swimming? Okay, we're going to go swimming. So let's think about this for a minute. So in your mind, well, you're probably going to wear a swimming suit or some different clothes than what you normally wear to get wet in. Will you take a towel? Do you have a favorite towel? I know my girls fight over the beach towels. Or like your favorite floaties or goggles or toys you like to play with when you're swimming. Also, I think, do you ever think about, especially if it's a hot day, like what the water will feel like? You can feel that warmth of the sun on your skin, and then you get into the water and it's nice and cold and refreshing and wet and splashing, and maybe you hate getting water in your eyes. Maybe you like to splash your friends or your siblings. And then, are you going to go to the beach? Are you going to a pool? What's the setting? Are you going to be on a boat? Are you just swimming? Who's going to be with you? Are you going to be with your family as you're thinking about swimming? Are your friends there, or maybe even a pet or something like that? And then, of course, do you have good food and snacks? Like, are there certain things that you like to eat when you're swimming? Do you get really hungry? Or, does your mom make sure that you're staying hydrated? And then, of course, you can't forget about sunscreen. So do you ever think about that just in those few seconds? You're like, oh, we're going swimming, and you kind of picture what that looks like, what you're going to wear, what you're going to take, who's going to be with you, where you are. That is all writing a story in your brain. Just those few seconds of thinking is actually all these little details that you're painting this picture in your head. You think that's interesting? So whether you're thinking about something or writing it down, like you're actually writing a story, like maybe you want to write a poem or a short story or something about going swimming. Or even for us working in a museum, we are all always telling stories. Did you know that? Did you know that museums, that's what we do, is we tell stories. We collect all these neat things which help us tell these stories. So I'm going to tell you about the story of the Hiram Dam, since we're talking about swimming. So I want you to look at this artifact here in front of me. It's pretty old. It's older than I am. It's older than my parents and even probably my grandparents. It's from the 1930s. And this is a pick that was used to help move dirt and dig the dirt that created the Hiram Dam and also the spillway, which is basically part of the dam. It keeps it from washing out. So if the water gets too high, instead of the water going over the dam, it would make it wash all out. So they have a spillway, which directs the water out so then the dam doesn't break. But anyway, so this is an artifact that helps us tell the story of the Hiram Dam. So, and I'd actually be curious, were you maybe even thinking about the Hiram Dam when we were talking about going swimming? I don't know, maybe. I was personally thinking about Bear Lake, but, maybe you were thinking about the Hiram Dam. Either way, whether you have been swimming or boating or fishing at the Hiram Dam, that it's right here and it's water that's available for us to play in. But I know when I think about the Hiram Dam, I grew up here and I've gone boating a lot and swimming and played at the beaches. My uncle had a boat, so we actually got to go water skiing with my cousins there a few times growing up. So when I think about the Hiram Dam, I just think about all the fun ways you can play in the water or hang out on the beach or whatever. Or like when I was in high school, the kids all went and jumped off Big Toe. So I didn't, I was too wimpy. But, those are all the stories I think about Hiram Dam. But did you know there is this whole bigger story about Hiram Dam, and this artifact shows it. So when Hiram Dam was built in the 1930s, it had nothing to do. Nobody wanted to play in the water. No one wanted to go fishing there. It was all about irrigation. There was a group of farmers that wanted a way to save the water from the Little Bear River so that if it was a really hot summer and the flow of the river slowed down, they had a way to save the water so that they could water their crops all winter. That's why it's called a reservoir, right? That's a French word, like the same word as reserve. So they're saving the water in the reservoir, right? And that's the whole reason the Hiram Dam was built, was to save the water, to have this reservoir of water to irrigate with. And another really important part of the story, if you look at on this side, there's some initials. It says WPA right here on the pick. And that also tells part of the story of the Hiram Dam, because that stands for a government agency that was around in the 1930s that was really important to helping people get jobs. Because that time in our nation's history, a lot of people in our community were still suffering from the effects of something that was happening called the Great Depression. And the Great Depression was a time in our country where a lot of people didn't have jobs. And so because they didn't have jobs, they weren't able to buy food or pay for their houses or clothes or things that their family really needed, because it was really hard to find jobs. And so there were a lot of government agencies, such as the WPA, that created these projects so that people could have work. And this was, building the Hyrum Dam was one of those projects. So it was really important to our community here at that time, because it gave so many people jobs so they were able to support their families. And so that's a really important part of the story of Hiram Dam too, that not only were they saving water for irrigation, but also building the Hiram Dam was a huge part of the local economy and what gave so many people jobs so that they could take care of their families. So this is an artifact that helps tell part of that story. Isn't that really cool? So there's a couple pictures behind me here, because over time, after the Great Depression, and you get into the 40s and there's World War I, and people are coming home from World War I, and the economy is doing better, and people have more they call leisure time, or time that you're not just at work, eating, going to bed, getting up, going to work, like you have time to actually do fun stuff a little bit. And so maybe that's going swimming, or maybe that's going fishing for a lot of people, or going to having fun community events and doing things like that. And so these pictures both show that later, a bit later in the Hiram Dam story, is that this is when it started to really become, people started to think about the Hiram Dam story as being one about recreation, about fun stuff, right? So the top picture is a picture, they used to actually have 4th of July fireworks that would go over the Hiram Dam. Like now we have them kind of up by the soccer fields, but several decades ago, they actually did them right out over the water so they'd be really sparkly and pretty. And so that's what that picture is of. And then this one here shows people actually ice fishing on Hiram Dam. So now winter is part of the Hiram Dam story. Before, really not so much, because there's not really any runoff. The water is all snow in the mountains, right? And so there wasn't much of the story of the Hiram Dam in the winter when it was just about irrigation. But as it became more, and recreation became a big part of it, irrigation still is. Every ounce of water in that dam is still meant for irrigation, and that's why it still stands today. People still irrigate all kinds of stuff out of the Hiram Dam. But now there's a state park there, and there's a boat ramp, and there's a beach, and there's all this fun stuff. There's awesome places to camp and little cabins and fun stuff. And so recreation is a huge part of the Hiram Dam story now. And so it has both components. It has the irrigation stories and the recreation stories. And also, like this shows, tons of people love to go out there and ice fish in the winter, which is a huge recreation thing and a fun thing to do. So I think that's really interesting. And I don't know if you knew that there were all these stories about the Hiram Dam. And by looking at these different artifacts we have here in the museum, that's what we're doing, is we're telling those stories to you, in case you didn't know that the Hiram Dam water was used for irrigation. Or that, it still is, but that's why they built it. Anyway, so what we have in our packets, for those that were able to get a packet, is I want you to be able to record some of your awesome summer stories, okay? And so, of course, there's a tree in here, because every good writer needs fuel, so yummy. And then there's a book. So I've started mine. See, this is Jamie's journal. And it's so I can talk about my adventures, my stories, maybe my dreams or ideas or questions that I have. So when we're writing stories in the museum, when we're writing these labels, there's a lot that goes into it. We want to make sure people know the story, but you have to do it really short because people just, who wants to read something that's, you know, a novel? But we also are asking questions. We want you to think about, well, what do you think about this? Or what do you see? Or you know, how does that relate to your life? And so all of those things, asking questions and thinking about it and relating to other people, that's all an important part of storytelling. So you have your little, you have a book, and also in here you have some stickers, because who doesn't love stickers? And also there's this really cool pen. And so you can pick all these fun different colors and write your story in your book. So I already started, and just like I was talking about using artifacts, I found a couple of things. So this is a feather, and it's not a bird, it's not right from a bird, obviously, because I've never seen a bird that color. But this is a story from last summer. It says, while we were camping, I saw 2 woodpeckers hitting a tree in perfect rhythm. So they were going like thump, 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 for like 15 minutes. It was really crazy. So I started video recording it. I thought it was so cool. So I took a video of it to show to my friend. I have a friend that works at another museum, and she loves birds. Her Facebook feed is just full of birds. So I took a video and I sent it to her. And so now every time I see birds, I think of this friend. And then I wrote, I wish I could fly like a bird, because I think that would be awesome. And then here's my question. Do you notice birds? So when you're outside, do you ever notice birds? You know, do you notice the different sounds they make, or the colors they are, or if they're interacting together? So anyway, that's one of my stories. This is another one I did with some movie tickets. And it says, I went to the movies today and everyone was really spread out. But you know what? I kind of liked it. Maybe everything about the pandemic isn't bad. But I am excited to do things this summer that I couldn't do this summer. And I haven't written more things, but there's some things I'm excited to do now that, you know, people are getting vaccinated, and it's a little bit, we know a little bit more about the disease, and so, you know, they're letting us get together, things are opening up a little bit more. So like, I'm really excited, for instance, to go eat at some of my favorite restaurants and just be able to sit there and eat and not have to do takeout, you know. And I'm excited to go to some events like Hot Wheels and Hyrum that we had to cancel last year. I'm excited that we can do our passport activities and we don't have to just do activity bags, that we'll be able to we have a plan to do a pretty safe version of it here in the museum. So I think that I am super excited about some fun things this summer. So you can write stories, and if you want to put a few stickers on, I think I'm gonna do this one right here. And you can make your book and write your stories for this summer. And I would love to see them, and so would Courtney. So if you want to bring them to the museum and show us, we might have a treat for you. So I hope that you have a great summer. You have some fun things you're looking forward to. And if you get super bored or super hot, you can always come out and visit us. And make sure to, you know, to use this and to write some stories down, because every story has a summer, and it should be a good one. Thanks for coming today.